Eastman Kodak didn't just miss the digital revolution. They invented it, held it in their hands, and then chose to bury it alive to protect the past. Not just any company, but a 130-year-old titan that literally put the tools of memory making into the hands of billions. A company so dominant, its name became a synonym for the photograph itself, the Kodak moment. For over a century, Kodak was photography. George Eastman's revolutionary dream to make photography as convenient as the pencil didn't just create a business, it built a global cultural institution. The simple $1 brownie camera truly democratized the snapshot. Their vibrant Kodachrome film colored our collective history, from the serene portraits of mid-century America to the stark, majestic desolation of the moon's surface. By the 1970s, their dominance was absolute. They controlled a staggering 90% of the US film market and 85% of all camera sales. They were a fortress, seemingly invincible, built on a mountain of celluloid and silver halide. And then, in a twist of fate, they invented the very thing that would destroy them. In 1975, in a humble Kodak laboratory in Rochester, New York, a young and brilliant electrical engineer named Stephen Sasson was given a vague, exploratory assignment. His managers handed him a new type of electronic component called a charge-coupled device, or CCD, and asked him to see if it had any practical use. What Sasson and his small team cobbled together over the course of a year was nothing short of revolutionary. The world's first self-contained digital camera. The device was a Frankenstein's monster of borrowed parts. It weighed nearly 9 pounds, was the size of a large toaster, and captured a blurry black and white image with a resolution of just 0.01 megapixels. It took an agonizing 23 seconds to record a single photograph onto a standard cassette tape. And to view it, you had to plug the camera into a specialized television screen. It was crude, it was slow, and it was utterly breathtakingly brilliant. It was a clear glimpse into a world without film, without chemical processing, without physical limits. Stephen Sasson, proud of his invention, demonstrated the device to a procession of Kodak executives and managers. The reaction was not excitement, but a profound and perplexing silence, punctuated by skeptical questions. They called it cute, but ultimately a solution in search of a problem. One senior manager famously asked, "But who would ever want to view their photos on a television set?" The most telling instruction Sasson received was to keep the project quiet. The seed of the future was in their hands, a seed they themselves had cultivated, and they chose to bury it in a backroom lab. The reason was simple, seductive, and ultimately fatal. It is the classic innovator's dilemma, known as the success trap. Kodak's entire empire, its unimaginable profits and its corporate DNA, were built on the beautiful, lucrative razor and blades model. You sold the cameras at cost, or even at a loss, and you made your fortune on the consumables. The miles of film rolls, the gallons of chemical developers, the sheets of glossy photo paper. Every smiling birthday party, every scenic vacation vista was not just a memory, it was a recurring revenue stream. Digital photography wasn't just a new product line, it was an existential threat to this fantastically profitable core. To embrace digital was to deliberately cannibalize the very heart of Kodak. This was not a failure of vision. Kodak scientists were among the best in the world. In fact, a prophetic 1979 internal report, circulated among top leadership, predicted with chilling accuracy that digital technology would replace traditional film-based photography. They forecasted the transition would be largely complete by 2010. They saw the tidal wave coming from over a decade away. Yet, armed with this knowledge, Kodak's leadership did not chart a bold new course. Instead, they spent the 1980s and 90s engaged in a colossal, multi-billion-dollar effort to hold back the tide. They poured resources into improving film, convinced that the tactile quality of a print was irreplaceable. They made baffling, desperate diversifications, buying a pharmaceutical company, Sterling Drug, for over $5 billion. A move that drained capital and management focus. Their strategy was not to lead the digital future, but to protect the analog past at all costs. This paralysis created a vacuum, and nature, especially the business world, abhors a vacuum. While Kodak hesitated, other companies that were not burdened by a legacy of film profits saw only opportunity. Japanese rivals like Sony, Canon, and Nikon, unshackled by the cannibalization fear, charged ahead. They refined the digital camera, making it smaller, better, and more affordable for consumers. Most strikingly, Fujifilm, Kodak's arch-rival in the film business, saw the same data and made the opposite bet. They aggressively diversified their chemical expertise into new fields like medical imaging and cosmetics, while simultaneously building a competitive digital camera division. They managed the transition. Kodak only managed the decline. When the digital dam finally burst in the early 2000s, the collapse of film sales was shockingly swift. Kodak, in a frantic last-ditch scramble, finally jumped into the digital camera market with both feet. They launched the EasyShare line, and by 2005, even briefly claimed the top spot in US digital camera sales. But it was a hollow, profitless victory. They were now just another player in a brutally competitive, low-margin electronics market, fighting against companies born for that fight. They were losing money on every camera sold, a devastating reality for a company whose identity was built on lavish profitability. And then, in a final cruel twist of irony, Kodak missed the second digital revolution entirely. They had actually glimpsed it early. In 2001, recognizing that digital photos lived on computers, Kodak acquired one of the first major online photo sharing platforms, a website called oPhoto. They had the vision to see that the future of photography was social, was about sharing. But the ghosts of their past doomed them again. Instead of nurturing oPhoto into the next great social network, their old print more pictures mindset took over. They used oPhoto primarily as a clever funnel to drive people back to ordering physical prints through the mail. They saw the internet as a new channel for their old business. As one venture capitalist later lamented, Kodak understood people would share photos online, but they fatally failed to understand that the sharing was the business. While Kodak was using oPhoto to sell more 4x6 glossies, two entrepreneurs were coding an app that would make photo sharing instantaneous, mobile, and social. That app was Instagram. In 2012, the same historic year that the once mighty Eastman Kodak company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, Facebook purchased Instagram for $1 billion. The contrast could not have been more devastating or more symbolic. The end was a slow-motion avalanche that everyone in the industry saw coming, yet Kodak seemed powerless to escape. From a peak of 145,000 employees in Rochester, a city it built, the workforce dwindled to a fraction, burdened under $6.8 billion in debt. The company was forced to sell off its crown jewels, the very patents for the digital imaging technology its own engineers had pioneered, just to survive. The company that taught the world to press the button and cherish the moment had completely and utterly missed its own moment of destiny. So, what is the profound and painful lesson of Kodak? It is not a simple tale of technological ignorance. This is a far more nuanced and cautionary tragedy. Kodak's story is about a company that invented the future and then, upon looking at it, decided the present was too comfortable to leave. It is the ultimate parable of corporate complacency, of being so deeply in love with your own past success that you become philosophically and strategically paralyzed to create your future. They did not fail because they didn't see the digital camera coming. They failed because they could not or would not imagine a profitable universe where their golden goose, the chemical film ecosystem, was not the sun at the center of their solar system. They were experts at managing a decline, but amateurs at championing a revolution. In the final analysis, Kodak was not defeated by Sony or by Canon or by the iPhone. It was defeated by its own shadow, by the overwhelming, suffocating weight of the way things have always been done. It stands as an eternal reminder that the greatest threat to any dominant company is never the competitor on the outside. It is the failure to courageously disrupt itself from within.